people, they listen to people, right? And they want to find ways to help their staff, to train them up, make sure that they're comfortable. The thing is, we have to understand that people won't stay where they are being put down, where they're being abused, where they feel unappreciated and undervalued. They won't stay in those situations. And we know based on statistics that people don't leave their jobs, they love their jobs. People leave their supervisors and their managers. That's what they're running from. And so training is so important. And we get a lot of these trainings because leaders have realized that if you can shift the culture, then they'll have better outcomes. So excited that you're joining us back for the Designers of Change podcast. We're going to be talking about organizational culture on episode 4. But before we jump into that, let's pay some bills first. And of course, the door is open if you want to come and help us pay some bills too. Sponsorship opportunities are here just for you to partner with us. So we want to give a big shout out to Jace Mary Media, Mind Food International, Superlative Auto, Amanda's Kitchen, Jamaica, Grace Creates, and Vibrant Creative Studio.
I can't believe we're at episode 4 already, babes. That is like a great accomplishment. But what is culture, though? What is culture? And culture is the way, in layman's term, though, culture is the way we do things around here. For example, whenever we travel, and you see an individual, how do you know that person is a Jamaican? It's not by height, it's not by their looks, it's the way they do things, their accent. Do they like a certain way their meat is jerked? So we know those persons. So when you go into an organization, every single organization, they have a particular way of doing things. And guess what? That embedded in that person. But here's the thing. Culture is so important because we have to understand people's culture. We have to understand an organization culture, because here's the thing, babes. Culture, if you are not careful, culture can get you killed. For example, if you're a marketer, right, and you are selling beef, no matter how good of a marketer you are, you could not sell beef burger in India.
No.
That can get you literally killed.
Right.
And so it is very, very important that we understand people's culture so that we can better position ourselves and so we can understand that individual.
Right. And you know what? As a professional, you're going to have to understand the different cultures.
Exactly.
I can share an example. We had a friend who was recently here in Jamaica. She's from Canada, and we were at the Pegasus, and we were literally just sitting outside enjoying the breeze. And I remember her saying, "Oh my gosh, I've said good morning like 100 times since I've been sitting here." And I'm looking at her like, that's good. You need that change. Because when we are in Canada, Toronto, wherever, people walk past you. And that's not something we're used to in our Caribbean, environment, because we were raised to say hello to whomever is passing, right? But they don't have that kind of culture. And if you're not careful, you will take offense to what culture is.
Yes, and so you have to understand culture. That is very important. One of the reasons when company goes into new market overseas, they would tell us that one of the number one reason why they fail is because they do not understand that culture
or haven't adapted to
that culture. For example, when we are doing corporate training overseas and we are telling story, we have to tell story that are universal to them. We can't tell them probably a story from Jamaica that probably our CEO don't understand. So you have to probably tell them, if we are in America, we probably tell them something about Blockbuster. If we are in Canada, you tell them something about BlackBerry because it is from there. And so you have to understand that culture. You have to tweak your training as well.
Right.
And you have to learn the jargon of that
you have to.
country. country. Yeah, because that's very important. Because words that are acceptable here might not be acceptable over there.
Right, and the vice versa is actually true. Words that are unacceptable here is quite fine there.
Exactly.
We can recall
Yes.
when we did the series of leadership training in St.
Insane.
Martin. When we were sitting down with the leadership team, they were in there and they were cursing Jamaican bad words, and they thought it
Yeah.
was fun.
Yeah.
And we said to ourselves, "What? Look at the irony. We
Yeah.
could never be home, and
Yes,
this
and-
happened."
Yes, because they were using the Jamaica expletive in their
Country, right?
country in St. Martin, and that was acceptable. But if we were in Jamaica, those words that would consider expletive, and you couldn't use that in a formal setting. But
Right.
in their culture,
It was fine.
that is acceptable, and so that is why we said at the beginning, if you are not careful and if you don't understand culture, you could be killed.
You could get in trouble, definitely. And I like the way you've coined about, you could have the greatest, the most ingenious business idea. You could pay every consultant around the world the best or whatever, the greatest. But if the culture is not conducive, it's a waste of time.
Yes, it's a waste of time, because you can't. If you go to India, you can't sell a beef burger in India, no matter how good of a sales rep you are,
Right.
because the culture is against that.
That's how powerful culture is.
Yeah.
Another example could be, as a HR consultant, you see where a company could be looking to turn things around, and they want to have a different cadre of employees, and they say, okay, we're gonna hire some different people because we want to change the pace of stuff. And they hire new people, and the new people come in weeks after the new people are acting like the people who have been there forever.
Because their culture, this is the culture of the organization. And the thing is that culture is the most powerful thing in an organization,
Right.
not vision. Culture eat vision and strategy for lunch. If you're a leader and you are implementing a new vision in that organization, if the culture is not, what you call it,
Conducive, right.
to it, then the vision or strategy that you are going to implement, it will not work.
Yes.
Because that culture will eat that vision and strategy for lunch.
Absolutely.
So the leader have to ensure that they get the right culture for that strategy and vision for it to succeed. There are many times that we go into organization, before we go into an organization, and they will say, you know what, Jamar and Nas, we have done so many training, and we can't seem to turn the organization around.
Right.
I mean, the main reason for that is the culture, because the culture is not
And so that leads me to ask, where does culture start?
Culture starts at the top with the leader, because culture also boils down to the personality of an organization, the personality of the country. If I come to your house right now, in your home, and you are the head of that home, you are married, your house takes on the personality of you. If
Yes.
you're a loud person, right, you're going to paint your house in a loud color. Probably the rooms are red, you have pink in there, you have yellow in there. It's a loud house. And we can see that with America, right? The United States, now we have Donald Trump, before we have Joe Biden. And so you can see where the
difference
the personality. So culture starts with leader, and then it trickles down into the middle, where the middle managers are. So culture starts there, and it is sustained, or it is discarded, and then it go down to the bottom where it is sustained. But guess what? But culture starts at the very top. It starts with the leader's vision. What is the leader's vision? It starts with the leader's purpose. What is the leader's purpose? It also starts with the leader's core values. Those are the things that make up the personality of a culture. Purpose of the leader, the vision of the leader, and the value of the leader. That's what makes up the culture of any organization, of any home, of any ministry, of any country. Those things are core.
Right. So I'm belaboring this point because I know that you may have a few persons out there who are trying to make changes and it's just not happening. So I'm gonna throw a scenario out there. Now, what if you have somebody who literally inherited a company? They were just appointed as CEO and they're trying to change certain things within the organization because the culture is not suitable for where they're going. How would they achieve that change?
It depends on the organization. If it's a large organization, then changing the culture is like turning around an 18-wheeler truck. You know, if you are driving, let's say you are driving on an highway, and let's say, because when we are overseas, we miss our, when we rent vehicle and we are
I
driving,
miss
we miss our
I
exit, right?
miss the exit so
And let's say
often.
you miss your exit and you're driving an 18 wheel, and let's say you have to make a U-turn. You can't make a U-turn with an 18-wheeler truck the way you make it with
A
a
sedan.
sedan. And so to make a U-turn with a 18-wheeler truck, you need time. And so if you have a large or a medium-sized organization, you can't just go in the organization or a ministry or a church and say, Jesus, I don't like the culture today. I'm going to just change it. It will never work. That is going to be a chaotic thing. But if you have a small organization, then you can turn that thing around just like you turn around a sedan. But back to your question. Now, if you're a leader that inherit an organization, or the first thing that leader have to do, that leader have to bring his or her team with her. Because those people in that organization, they are already
They're
cultured.
already seasoned.
And if you're not careful, that culture will take over the leader.
Yes.
Because that's how
Or
powerful.
they kick you out if
And they
it
kick
is
you out,
that you're
yeah.
not changing to what they
Yeah.
want.
And so it's very, if it's a large organization, it's difficult. That leader would have to come in with his team. I know what we like to say when you are changing a culture, a leader should walk with a sledgehammer and what do you call those things that you mold things? The potter's wheel.
Oh,
Yeah.
powerful. I like
So
that.
while
So you're
you're
breaking stuff
so
down and
and
you're
you're
building
and you're
stuff up.
building
I
stuff.
love
So
that.
so a leader must have, when you are changing an organization culture, you must have a sledgehammer because you have to tear down things. But you must also have a potter's wheel because you have to mold things and change it. But changing an organization culture, it's a very difficult job, and sometimes it causes casualty because you will have to get rid of some people to birth a new culture.
Yes.
So culture can
I
be very difficult.
I had a leader who would always tell us if the people don't change, change the people. And I still live by that principle, as harsh as it may sound. But we have so many other things that we want to talk about where culture is concerned. But let's take a break here and stick and stay, guys. We have so much more. If you are looking to shake things up, of course you are, because you are listening and you're tuned into Designers of Change. Please stick and stay. We have so much more to share with you. The Designers of Change podcast is proudly sponsored by Jace Myrie Media, Mind Food International, Superlative Auto, Amanda's Kitchen Jamaica, Grace Creates, and Vibrant Creative Studios. We're going to jump back into our discussion, which we're on episode 4. It's unbelievable to think that we have gotten this far, but we're talking about having a healthy organizational culture. But you explain culture so well. I want to ask you from your perspective, what makes up culture? And I'll add my 2 cents afterwards.
What makes it up? The leader's vision, the leader's purpose, the leader's value, and the leader's personality. Because our an organization, our ministry function, it takes on that leader's personality, the color, the logo, everything, the looks of the organization is going to take on the leader's personality. So that's what makes up an organization. And you know you have a culture, organization culture. You know you have the tangible and the intangible part of culture. So that's one of the main thing that makes
What
up.
are some of the tangible things that make up a
Um,
culture?
Probably the decor. Like for some organization, you walk inside here and the decor on the wall, the painting on the wall. For look at Jamaica, what are some of the tangible things that makes up our culture? The food,
Yes,
right? The food.
music.
Yeah, the place, the beach. And so those are things that we can touch and those are things that we can see. And for organization, even a personal home, the type of furniture that's inside of your house makes that's part
Right.
of your
That's if
personality.
you even have furniture at all. Because again, it's based on your own style, and we've seen where, you'll have homes, they're huge, they're empty because the person will say, "I don't want clutter. I don't want too many things in here." So it's based on the pace of the leader. And we know the pace of the team is determined by the pace of the leader. Likewise with culture. Now, some intangible things that would make up a culture would include what? Like the purpose of the
Yeah, the
incorporation,
purpose of the
why the
incorporation.
company is there.
Yeah,
Go
the
ahead.
value, a core value, because the core value that is going to guide the organization
Right,
is honestly one of our only policy.
right.
Do we are on time? How do we treat our customers? So forth. So
Right. So
those,
customer service,
yeah.
time management, all these different things,
Do
they
we
are
respect people or do we celebrate wins or do we treat our staff? All of those things, they are part of the culture,
culture.
the intangible. But guess what? So many of the time, is the intangible makes up the majority of the culture because culture is really an inside thing. Because how do we know that you're a Jamaican? It's not by what you wear, right? No, it's not by what you wear. It's your thought, your
But by the
custom.
way, Mr. Wright, don't act like people haven't picked you up overseas because of Clarks. Like they
Yeah,
literally see me in the store and be like, "What me yardy?" They see the Clarks and they're like,
yeah,
"Yeah, this is definitely a
yeah,
Jamaican, right?"
yeah, yeah. In that context, that's true. That's true. But majority of the time, culture is really an inside. It's the intangible part.
And a lot of times people will think that uh, the tangible is more valuable. And we often get it twisted, but it's the other way around. How we do things is dictated by people's attitudes and their behavior, their actions, and so on. And as Mr. Wright said at the start, culture will determine if your employees stay. Culture will determine if the kids will stay in the home after they
Yeah.
become 18, right?
Yes.
Because they'll get to an age where they decide that this is not something that I want to be a part of. Let me go and work. Let me go and pay my own way through, right? So the intangibles are actually quite more valuable than
The
the
tangible.
tangible.
Because you said something what the culture determine. In an organization, culture really determine whether an organization is creative or not. For example, in the previous podcast we talk about failure. Now, if you're in an organization that spank people for when they try and fail, then what you're going to create an organization that doesn't value creativity.
Right.
Creativity. Because what you are saying to somebody when they fail and you go hard on them, you spank them, you are saying, do not make any
Mistakes,
mistake.
right? Or you're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, you're going to get in trouble.
Which leads to another thing. It creates a culture of fear,
Exactly.
right? It creates a culture of also people doubting themselves.
Exactly.
You understand? So there's so many different things that we can pull out of it, but culture literally can determine the type of leadership style
Exactly.
that your managers will have. And so we have to be careful. And know that once you are in leadership position, you are in a position to change culture. Even if you cannot change the culture of the entire organization, you can change the culture of your department.
Exactly.
I remember when I was working at this particular corporation, and I teach it till this day. when I would walk in the different departments, there's always a different feeling. In the auditing department, it's always tense. Why? The manager was like that. When I walk into accounts, they're free flowing. Everybody is vibrant. Everybody is talking. Manager was kind of like that, right?
Yes, yeah.
And then by the time when you walk through, everybody literally has a different personality. You determine the pace of your team. Likewise, in your home, there are some homes when we go, we visit, naturally take your shoes off at the door.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
nice and clean. Everything in there is white. And
Yeah.
you're afraid to sit down, and you don't want to be leaning on the cushion,
Yeah.
and all these different things, because you know that the culture
Culture.
in the home, it's clean, it's quiet, it's cozy. And so you are the designer of that change.
Exactly. You say a lot of things and some profound things. Another thing that culture determine, you were talking about the leadership style, that the culture determine the type of leader. If it's a tyrant leader at the top,
Right.
then it's going to trickle down
Oh
to a lot of
my.
people being
Everybody's
tyrant.
gonna be a bully.
Everybody's going to
Oh
be a
my
bully.
word.
And then fear is going to manifest in that.
Ooh.
If it's a culture that become unhealthy, and the leader is a bit mediocre, then that is going to trickle down in the organization, where the organization is a bit mediocre.
Are nonchalant,
indifferent. So
right? You see organizations like that, or you may have leaders who are relaxed.
Exactly.
They're laid back. And when you look at the capacity of the staff, they can do so much more, but they're not, because
Yeah.
the culture is a relaxed one.
Yes.
Nobody is looking to produce any extraordinary result.
Yeah.
So when we talk about culture, we're talking about the fact that it's malleable.
Yes,
You
it's-
can mold it.
yeah, you can
You
mold
can
it.
change it. You don't want to be too rigid and change it too fast, but at the same time, you don't want to sit back with your hands folded,
Yeah.
because it will force you into a decline.
If you try to change the culture too fast, what will happen is that a lot of people will have a lot of
High turnover,
yeah.
right?
It's like when there's this business book that we used to read, and it's auto what, cook a frog, right? And oh no, how to boil a frog. And they say if you put the frog in hot water, it jumps out. That is when the change is sudden and abrupt. It's
Yes.
if a change is sudden and abrupt, people is going to leave. But they say if you want to boil the frog, you put the frog in the cold water, and you take your time, and you turn and you adjust the heat, and the frog will never know that frog is in hot water, because what the frog is doing, the frog is adapting to the water as it's
Absolutely.
going on, and eventually the frog will die.
Yes. Yes.
So if the change is smooth, people will stay.
Sorry for the graphic explanation, but that's exactly how the book puts it.
Yeah.
But just as we have unhealthy culture, we actually have very healthy culture in organizations. And I've worked with a few of those. I've met incredible leaders. And when I say they're not perfect, they all have things that they're working on. But when it comes to people, they listen to people, right? And they want to find ways to help their staff, to train them up, make sure that they're comfortable. The thing is, we have to understand that people won't stay where they are being put down, where they're being abused, where they feel unappreciated and undervalued. They won't stay in those situations. And we know, based on statistics, that people don't leave their jobs, they love their jobs. People leave their supervisors and their managers. That's what they're running from. And so training is so important. And we get a lot of these trainings because leaders have realized that if you can shift the culture, then they'll have better output.
Yeah, because if you can change the culture, because remember, culture is the most powerful thing in an organization, even in a country. Because even if you pass a law in a country, the law of what the law try to does is to reinforce a culture that policymaker is trying to accomplish. But guess what? If the culture is even more greater than the law, that will not even stand.
Right.
Because that's how powerful culture is.
What's a
Remember,
powerful example for that one?
let us say we pass a law in Jamaica and say, you know what, nobody should smoke weed ever. You think that would stop people from smoking weed? No, it wouldn't
That
work.
wouldn't work at
Because
all.
the culture of smoking marijuana is so powerful that a law couldn't prohibit that.
Right.
And so it is the same thing in an organization, same thing in your house. Because remember, in layman term, culture is the way we do
Do things
things
around
around here.
here.
And so if you have a vision, a great vision, a great strategy, but the culture is not supporting that strategy and that vision, it's not going to work.
Absolutely. And also, I just want to share, if you are a leader trying to make your changes within your organization, your space, your ministry, whatever the case is, you have to have patience. Because as Mr. Wright says, it's going to take time. If it's large, it's going to take time. And remember, change is inevitable, but you cannot just force it on people. You have to reinforce why the change is necessary. Make sure you have the right people on board to help you with that change. Train them so that they'll have a different perspective. But understand that when it comes to culture, as powerful as a vehicle that it is, you need the people on board because the buy-in is absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
What's your final two thoughts on this topic?
I mean, there's so much things that can be said or could be said about organization culture and culture in general, but we have seen a lot of toxic organization. But if a company or a ministry or organization or a house can develop the right kind of culture, then people would stay. We have trained many organizations where a lot of people, they did not leave because of the money,
Right.
but they leave because of the toxic
Culture.
culture. And what do you say? What do you think? Because
My,
you have done a lot of
my.
consulting.
I mean, through consultations and just through working with numerous organizations, this is clearly one of the top five things that I believe leaders globally are forced to sit and work through. Changing an organization that has been around for 100 years is hard. It's hard working with people who have been there forever and they think that they know everything and nothing should be changed. But the truth is, the world is changing, so we have to move along with these different trends and so on, or the business will no longer exist. I say ensure that you're putting in the investing or the investment in your greatest resource, which is human resource. Ensure that you have some kind of buy-in. Understand that you don't have to get everyone on board, but you do have some influential ones that you need to be able to communicate your vision, so that you have the right buy-in. But understand that we have to change.
Yeah.
You know, things must change.
Yeah.
You can't be in such a world in the 21st century and you are not making the changes that are necessary for your business to survive and for people to have food on the table. So that's pretty much my take on organization culture, but it's imperative. It's not just
Yeah.
in the companies, but at home,
At home.
at schools, at
At-
churches. Are you seeing the culture that you want to see?
because yes, you have to ensure that you're not going to get the perfect culture. And culture is similar to environment. If the environment is toxic, nothing will grow in there. It will become like the Dead Sea. There will be no life form. And so when it is healthy, you get better result. It inevitably will get better result, and you will get better people.
Yes.
Because a toxic environment will more than likely produce abusive people,
Absolutely.
abusive leader.
Absolutely. So that's it, guys, for Designers of Change podcast, episode 4, all done and complete. But this would not be possible if it weren't for our partners. So we want to give a big shout out to our sponsors. Thank you so much to Jay's Myri Media, Vibrant Creative Studio, Mind Food International, Superlative Auto, Amanda's Kitchen Jamaica, and Grace Creates. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
And like the Terminator,
Thank you for joining us for the Designers of Change podcast. Join us on the next episode.